Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we turn to talking about a pretty interesting story that's related to the chaos and the crazy stuff going on in America this year. Of course, to recap, we've been dealing with a lot of strife and a lot of political race baiting going on, mostly coming from the left, the media, Hollywood, and other types who are taking random arrests gone wrong and turning them into these crazy stories that are causing violence and riots and terrorism and chaos to plague our whole entire country. And also, tensions are high between the races too. They're trying to get everyone to turn against each other. They're trying to make everyone violent and afraid and scared, and also just make it seem like America isn't that great of a place because they also, of course, are aiming to win this election in November. So every way they can destabilize the country is a way for them to try to make it say, hey, this country's not that good. Let's get rid of the president. But I think that's certainly starting to backfire on them, as many have started to notice. Even the Democrats themselves have started to back away from this crazy tactic because it's obviously gone too far. They've pushed it too far. They've gone over the edge, and now people are seeing the Democrats for the violent, terrible people that they are, and also the very hypocritical people that they are. As you'll see with today's story is talking about a certain instance where a number of families have decided to purchase 97 acres of land to create a safe city for their own people. Now, I'm not going to tell you which group of people is doing this yet because I want it to be a bit of a surprise. I think it's interesting for you guys to take a moment and think about what group of people could be doing this and creating their own city for their own people, and whether or not that's a controversial thing to do. So think about that for a moment. We'll get to the real story and specifics soon. We're going to talk about why this is kind of hypocritical and funny and interesting, to say the least. We'll get to that soon, but first, I'll take a quick pause while you guys guess how this story is going to play out. So have you done it? Have you commented on the video what you think these families are and whether this is controversial? Okay, go ahead and comment below. And now I'm going to tell you the answer. Here's the article. It says 19 black families purchased 97 acres of land to create safe city for black people. Wow, that's a pretty interesting story and headline. Now, this obviously is interesting for a number of reasons. I mean, first of all, this is basically what they've accused white people of wanting to do, like over and over for many years. I can remember at least from 5 years ago, leading up to the 2016 election, a lot of people were talking about white people being racist and wanting to make cities and countries for their own people and not allowing other people in and stuff like that. Like, that was a big meme that still goes on to this day. Like, they still call us stuff like white supremacists, nationalists, and all those other buzz terms that really don't mean much and really are based on lies and mistruths. I mean, I've been accused of this. People have said I'm a person who wants a place to live that doesn't have other types of people in it, and it's just absolutely absurd. I mean, I've never said anything like that. I've never supported anyone like that. I don't know where this comes from, but I have my guesses. I mean, my suspicion is they just say you're a racist and you want like to live in your own sort of ethno state. They just say that to make you look bad and to make up stuff about you. It's the same thing as they call you like a 1940s German, or they say, hey, you know, you're a racist, you're a terrible person, you hate these kinds of people, like you hate alphabet people or something like that. And that's essentially where all that comes from. And it just really is very, very funny and hypocritical when they support this in other cases. Like, if you're not allowed to have an ethno state if you're white, how come black people can set up a city just for their own people? I mean, it doesn't really make sense. I can't believe this is something that's been shared on multiple articles and multiple stories across the country have been talking about this like it's some kind of great, powerful, amazing thing. And before we get into the story and the details, I just want to say, like, I don't really care. Like, people can do this if they want to live in this city, if other people want to live in a city. Like, I'm not really with it one way or the other. My main thing is here is like, it's hypocritical to support this, and it's also offensive to people who have been accused of things like this, like myself and other conservatives. We get called racist for not even really wanting this kind of thing, but now black people can want it, and it's protected and it's supported and promoted. So with that said, let's go ahead and read on before we go any further. Amid protests over the police killings of several black men and women, a group of 19 black families has come together to purchase 96 acres of land in Toomsboro, Georgia. The group plans to build a new city in the area. Ashley Scott, a Georgia-based realtor, started the Freedom Georgia initiative with a group of friends. Our vision is to develop our vast, resource-rich 97 acres of land in Toomsboro, Georgia, for the establishment of an innovative community for environmentally sustainable living, health and wellness, agricultural and economic development, arts and culture for the generations to come, the group explains on their website. Now, again, this sounds totally fine. Like, I'm not a fan of this either way, but I'm not against it. Like, if they want to build their own city, it sounds like it has a nice little plan here. I do question the racial element. I'm not sure if they're going to like make it so it's only for black people or how super strict that's going to be. That's kind of questionable, but starting your own city and trying to create a new place, it's not really the worst thing. It's honorable even, but really, again, the worst part is the hypocrisy and how this is being praised. And then in addition to that, I mean, who wants to live in Toomsboro, Georgia? It's just a small town in Georgia. Georgia is a very hot, very humid place. It could be a great state too. There's Atlanta. There's some great farms and countrysides there, but I'm just saying this is not ideal. And in addition, this is a failed strategy that the blacks tried before, like when they tried to flee the entire country and they started their own nation in Africa called Liberia. It became very corrupt. It's still corrupt to this day. It was a failed state. It turned into a total mess. And I'm not sure that this area can very much do any better, but that's besides the point. That's just a little history lesson. Our aim is to be a premier recreational, educational, and cultural destination for black families across the African diaspora. We welcome you, your family, and all black allies to support us in our vision to be the change we want to see. In an op-ed for Blavity, Scott explained that the idea came after the death of Ahmaud Arbery, a black man who was killed by a group of white men while out on a jog. I sought counseling from a black therapist, and it helped me realize that we as black people are suffering from is racial trauma. We are dealing with systemic racism, Scott wrote. So this is definitely based on a number of lies and false stories. Like, they're already misrepresenting the Ahmaud Arbery story, saying he was just jogging. That's not true very much at all. They've talked about some of these other people, like they mentioned police killing black men and women, like they just did it for no reason. This is not an accurate representation of any of these stories. All those arrests that went wrong in Minneapolis, Atlanta, and Kenosha, they involved violent criminals fighting with the cops, turning weapons on them, being high on drugs, other very bad things, intoxication, driving while intoxicated, spending fake bills, shooting tasers at cops, reaching for weapons, all kinds of bad stuff like that. So to paint it as just cops killing black people, it's totally dishonest and it makes no sense. And it has nothing to do with them being black. Just like this Ahmaud Arbery story, the guy, they claim he was just jogging, but he was going up and reaching for a guy's weapon and attacking them. He was like lunging at this truck. I mean, that's not necessarily a death sentence. It's not deserving. No one should be dying or getting hurt. But the fact of the matter is, these people have got themselves into to sticky situations. They're playing with fire and they got burnt. But the way the media and these people at this event are trying to portray them, it's like, oh, they're just innocent black people, never did anything wrong. And it's just not true. And it's getting to these people. I mean, as they say here, they have to go to therapy. They feel like they're facing trauma and systemic racism. Now, I don't know if they really believe that or they're just trying to push that to bash people or whatever. But if it's true, assuming it's true, these guys have problems with their brains. They're needing therapy. They can't think straight. They have trauma and they think racism's everywhere. Systemic racism is just a buzzword, though. I mean, there's no proven racism in our system. There's no laws that are racist. I mean, I'm sure there's a few racist people out there. I mean, I know that it happens, but it's way overblown. And the idea that everything comes from a system of racism, that's just more propaganda. And that's why people like this are losing their minds. That's why they're going crazy and they want to flee and build their own cities. And like I said, if someone wants to build a new city, that can actually be an honorable thing, creating something new, that's not the worst idea. But basing it on all these lies and coming from these people with mental issues, like, I definitely am already starting to worry about it. We are dealing with deep-rooted issues that will require more than protesting in the street. It will take for us as a people, as Atlanta rapper and activist Killer Mike so eloquently put, to plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize. So that's what I and my good friend Renee Walters, an entrepreneur and investor, did. Well, again, fine with you guys having some interesting ideas, making your own city, but I'm really worried that you're quoting someone named Killer Mike. I think this is part of the problem. This is the rap culture that's a pro-violent, anti-cop culture, and this kind of idea, like looking up to someone like Killer Mike, I mean, that is not a proper role model name to me. I mean, it sounds like someone that's killed someone. I know it might be ironic or cheeky or some kind of exaggerated name, but this is where these issues come from. These rappers promote violence. They have this kind of gang culture. They talk about doing crimes and resisting arrest and stuff like that. And it's no wonder that these people then go out, the people that follow them end up wrestling with cops and pulling weapons on them and not respecting authority. So this is really part of the issue and the problem. And the fact that they're looking up to Killer Mike, it's like, no, you should be looking up to some proper role models, like even just consider accepting authority and looking up to some police officers or military or something. We consider the reality that even in Atlanta, with an exceptional black woman like Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, there was still no respect for the humanity of blacks. That even with Erica Shields, a black woman chief of police at the helm, there was the murder of Rashard Brooks. We can see there is something much deeper happening. Politics, as usual, isn't the answer. Something new has to happen. And this is just another lie about that arrest gone wrong. It wasn't a murder of Rashard Brooks. This was the guy that fell asleep in a Wendy's drive-thru, and then when the cops showed up, he started fighting them, and he reached for their weapon and pointed a weapon at them. Like, what are the cops supposed to do in that situation? Just let themselves get beat up and attacked and possibly killed? Like, how come this guy can defend himself? I mean, he's not even defending himself. He's just resisting arrest and, defying the laws of the land. But the cops can't defend themselves from someone like that? Like, this is just insane, and it's showing that these kinds of lies in the media, this misrepresentation of the story, is causing issues in the black community. It's getting them so scared they have to see therapists, and they think they have to build new cities and separate from everyone else. It's like segregationist. It's regressing to the way things were many, many years ago. Last thing we'll say today is the fact that it's kind of ironic that two black women are in charge in Atlanta, and they still say it's racist and terrible there, and there's no respect for the humanity of blacks. I mean, you have a black female mayor, you have a black female police chief. So where is all this racism coming from? Like, that the cops and the politicians represent the area. So if there's a lot of blacks in Atlanta, and there is, I think it's near 50%, that means 50% of the government is that too, at least. It could be more or less. But the point is, they're having these Democrats and these black women in charge, and they still say everything's racist. They still say they're fighting racism and all this crap. It just doesn't make sense. Like, are they racist to themselves then? Like, where do white people come in? Like, we're not even involved in this scenario, but somehow everyone's racist, and it's just a easy way for them to cop out and blame their problems on everyone else. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Do you think this sort of black ethno city is pretty, hypocritical and not cool, especially since they've been attacking white people and pretending we want ethno states and stuff like that for years? But then when the black people do it, they're like, oh, that's cool. Good job. Let's write an article about it. Totally insane. But tell me what you think personally in the comments below. Also hit that like button to help this channel out. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you on the next video.